Liberty Nation. Truth is making a comeback.
Welcome to LibertyNation.com and our weekly roundtable. Tim Donner with you, joined by three of our crack authors: political correspondent Graham Noble, national correspondent Sarah Cowgill, and legal affairs maven and editor Scott Cosenza. So what to do about immigration? It was a central and explosively controversial issue in Donald Trump's presidential campaign and has been even more explosive, not to mention difficult to fix, since he assumed the presidency. Several different elements to this issue. So let's start with Graham. President Trump has famously proposed to build a wall on our southern border. It's one of the few promises he's made that is yet unfulfilled, but Democrats seem intent on doing anything and everything to block funding for the wall. And establishment Republicans are unenthusiastic at best about it. So how does the president get this wall built? Can he get this wall built?
Tim, I think the only way he gets this wall built is by, threats, making life difficult for Republicans in Congress, threatening to veto other bills, because, of course, the Democrats never had the slightest intention of actually giving him any money at all for the wall, even though they've claimed in the past that, Chuck Schumer claimed that he did once offer funding for the wall, but of course, offering it, giving a verbal offer and then actually voting for legislation that funds the wall was two different things. Democrats were never going to fund the wall. The Republicans don't want to fund the wall either, and the Republican leadership at least, is very good at completely disregarding the will of the party's voting base the moment an election has gone. So I don't believe that the Republican leadership wants the wall. They certainly don't want to pay for it. The Democrats aren't going to pay for it. So it's going to be kind of threats, coercion, vetoing other bills. Trump is really going to have to play hardball to get this wall funded. I'm not sure that I see it happening.
Sarah, you're our Heartland correspondent, overseeing the folks in flyover country, Trump country. How important is the wall to the folks out there? And is there upset over the fact that it hasn't been built yet?
It's not necessarily upset at Trump, but they are not happy with rhinos and they are not happy with the Democrats. This was a campaign promise. It rallied the troops. Immigration is a huge problem in our country. Everybody knows it. Everybody admits that. Nobody wants to do anything about it. But the flyover folk, they're ready for him to just stop. If they have to stop government to get what he wants done, then they're all for it. It's really not it's a no-brainer for the people here. They don't understand how we have a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate and nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. Nothing. Shall I say it again? Nothing.
Except maybe for tax reform. That was pretty big. But let's bring Scott in here. Scott, you're one of our resident libertarians. What say you about the strict enforcement of current immigration laws in this Trump era and building a wall to protect against illegal immigrants, of which we now have 11 million or more?
Tim, when I hear Sarah say nothing gets done and nothing gets done, I think, yes, that's like manna from heaven. That's the best thing that we can hope for. I find the aggressive enforcement of the immigration laws to be troubling. It's usually affecting people who are, sort of the least of us, whether they're, you don't want to maybe not include them as us in the sense that they're U.S. citizens. That they're people who are not necessarily having the best lot in life. And so I have a lot of sympathy for them. And I also think that federal law enforcement should focus on the more pressing problems that we have in our country in violations of the federal law. I'd like to see them go after police departments that violate the rights of their citizens, or mayors that hire their nephew to clean the floors at City Hall for twice the going rate. That kind of thing, I think, would be an appropriate use a better use of their resources. I don't think that we should do anything more than restrict people who are security risks from entering this country. And otherwise, we should let people be free. And those walls will keep us in as much as they'll keep others out.
Graham, let's go back to you now that Scott has presented the libertarian virtual open borders policy. I want to get your thoughts on the border and the family separation issue, which has made the screaming headlines in the elite leftist media. Is this demonstrating, as Scott seems to indicate, flat-out cruelty by the Trump administration?
No, I don't think so at all. I think first of all, you know, and I'm kind of a conservatarian. I'm very much halfway between the conservative and the libertarian point of view on most things, and I very much agree with Scott on most of his, let's say, civil libertarian stances. But I do believe that nations have to have borders, and because I don't think ultimately any nation or any system of law and order would actually withstand a borderless world. Eventually it would just descend into complete chaos. As for these, the children being separated from the, I'm not going to say the parents necessarily, but the adults who brought them into the country, I think, first of all, if you don't want to be separated from your children, don't enter the country illegally. And secondly, I'm much more concerned with the safety of these children than I am with any faux outrage from the left. So I believe that in cases where people can absolutely prove that the children that they have with them are their children, in which case I would actually say, no, let's not separate them at all. Let's actually, you know, I still think we should deport them, but I think we should keep the families together and make whatever accommodations we need to do that. But I believe that if there's any doubt whatsoever that the adults accompanying the children are not in fact their parents, I believe the children should be removed from those adults immediately and indefinitely for their own safety.
Okay, let's go back to Scott for a moment. Scott, more and more leftists are calling for ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to be abolished. What exactly would we replace it with?
Well, you could have a border security force that basically establishes bona fides for people who want to come into this country. We have relationships with, you know, I mean, how do we determine, I'm not a police officer, obviously, or federal immigration police officer, but we have ways to determine whether people who may want to come in are security risks or not. I think it's incumbent upon them to pay for the reasonable costs of that security check. I can only imagine it would be a lot less than what they are paying the average coyote to smuggle them across the border now. But that we would be able to then complete that check in jurisdictions that cooperate with us. I mean, if there's someone who wants to come here from Burkina Faso and we can't verify who they are, maybe we have a good reason to keep them out. But for people who we don't have a good reason to keep out, we should let them be free. Just like if we have, you know, somebody coming into the state of Virginia from Pennsylvania, you know, we let them come and we don't demand anything of them. Except that let them be free and obey our laws. Well, same thing with the border.
So, Sarah, what about those DACA kids or young adults the Democrats were so concerned about? President Trump offered to legalize twice as many as President Obama did, but the Democrats have refused to do any kind of deal with this president. Have they thrown these DACA recipients under the bus for the sake of vengeance against Trump?
Yes, in a word. They have a shiny new object. That's kids in cages. Let's put kids in cages and 2,000 kids at the border that have been separated from guardians and parents. And, you know, I'm incensed by the fact that the left wants to harp on that and is drawing a line in the sand on immigration. And Scott, you and I could debate all day long, but it would be hours and hours and hours, so I'm not going to go after you. But I have posted your address for all people just wanting open borders and wanting to come stay at your house until they get settled. But on the other hand, here's the thing. There are 2.5 million homeless children in America, our kids. Why aren't we getting our own house in order before we open the doors to the rest of the world? That makes me mad. That incenses me. So their argument about 2,000 kids that now most of them are back with their parents, it doesn't even make me tremble a tear coming out of my left eye.
All right. Well, Sarah, we'll make that the last word. Our thanks to Sarah Cowgill and Graham Noble and Scott Cosenza. I'm Tim Donner, and this is the LNTV Weekly Roundtable. See you next time.
Visit us at libertynation.com.